Hello, friends, and welcome back to Sunshine Strategies Radio. My name is Jen McMillan, your host and founder of Sunshine Strategies, a nonprofit organization that helps rural communities downstate. And to be honest, I have to start out with an apology today. Um, I took a little bit of time off from the podcast these last couple of weeks. This whole project, Sunshine Strategies and Sunshine Strategies Radio, was built to help regular families and their kids understand civics and politics. But lately, I've been really struggling to know where to begin these episodes. I needed a moment to breathe, to think, to really figure out how to talk about what's happening in our country without giving in to despair. Because this week, once again, our president called people like me and my progressive friends enemies. And that word has been echoing in my head ever since. The ruling party in our country believes that people who care about democracy, equality, and inclusion are the problem that needs to be fixed. How do you even explain something that absurd to your family, let alone to the people listening here on our podcast, trying to make sense of what's happening in our democracy? So maybe I should start with what's happening right now. The government shutdown is entirely the Republicans doing at this point. They've been working to keep everyone shut out so they can keep dismantling the very systems that are supposed to serve us. It's not dysfunction, it's deliberate. And it's genuinely ridiculous. But the worst part for so many of us is that we feel powerless. That's not an accident. That's by design. Part of our country that we rarely talk about anymore is the concept of pluralism. Pluralism is the radical idea that you don't have to agree with me for both of us to belong here. It means that no one has to believe just one idea. Nobody gets kicked out because someone disagrees with them. And everyone gets a voice in shaping how our society works. That's what America was meant to be. A nation where everyone is respected and invited to participate within the boundaries we build together. But Donald Trump and the MAGA movement have rejected that foundation entirely. They've replaced the American we with a very narrow us. They've traded belonging for obedience. And it's that rejection of pluralism, that loss of civic trust, is the quiet beating heart of our national crisis. My hopes for more equality, more diversity, more democracy directly conflict with their vision. That's why they see people like me as the enemy. But here's the problem. Outrage is really exhausting. We are divided at every level, from families to Congress. We're afraid to speak out for fear of losing our jobs, relationships, or even personal safety. That's where I've been these past 2 weeks. Exhausted, upset, and afraid. And guess what? It hasn't helped. Not at all. But here's the truth. That despair that we're all feeling, that is a luxury that democracy cannot afford. But thankfully, I found something that does help. It's not glamorous and it's not fast, but it's real. Repairing a broken society starts right here at home. It starts with building trust and community locally. It's showing up at school plays, township meetings, and county celebrations. It's meeting neighbors where they are, not where we wish they were. It's remembering that democracy only works when we do. So, a couple weeks back, my family started a new tradition called Civic Sundays. Every Sunday afternoon, about 1 p.m., we open our home to our friends, neighbors, and anyone who wants to stop by and chat about civics, what's going on locally, about how we can make things better together. We have coffee, we share stories and our frustrations, but always with purpose. It's not about politics so much as participation. It's about reclaiming the public square, starting with our own living room. So, what began as just me and my husband and my kids has grown into something a little bit bigger. We've got parents, teachers, small business owners, veterans, and just a couple of officials that have stopped by to listen. And little by little, we're doing it. We're rebuilding trust, rebuilding connection, and rebuilding democracy one Sunday at a time. If democracy starts with we the people, then rebuilding has to start with us too. If you can't make it to one of my Civic Sundays or host your own, that's okay. Find your own version. Maybe it's going to your community's Rotary breakfast. Maybe it's a church group that you hang out at or the township meeting that you go to every month. Maybe it's just coffee with a neighbor that you disagree with, but still want to have a relationship with and the willingness to listen. Democracy isn't rebuilt in Washington. It's rebuilt whenever 2 or 3 people decide to talk instead of yell, to listen instead of post, and to hope instead of hide. So that's my challenge to you guys this week. Find your people, build your circle, and start small, but start now. Because the only way out of this really low that everybody's feeling, this outrage, is through community. And the only way we find our way back is together. All right. Now, on to everyone's favorite section, quick rundown of things that you may have missed in the news. Let's start right now with this childcare crisis that is deepening during the government shutdown. So, as the federal government remains closed, essential support programs for families are under serious strain. The WIC program, and that's the Women, Infants, and Children program, which supports nutrition for over 6 million Americans, is projected to run out of funding within 1 to 2 weeks, according to the Washington Post. Now, Democrats have introduced the Federal Worker Child Care Protection Act of 2025 to help reimburse federal workers for their expenses. But what this means for families all across the nation are that things are already stretched thin and they're going to have to start coming across impossible choices. Either stop working to, make sure their children are cared for or find costly alternatives. So please stay informed on this issue, stay vocal. Um, Local advocacy does help. Please reach out to your representatives and senators and let them know that this shutdown is hurting a lot of families. Something not so much on the shutdown side, but just as important, is that the EPA has cut some solar programs for low income households, and lawsuits have started. Several groups are suing the EPA over its decision to cancel the Solar for All program, which was meant to provide affordable solar energy to nearly a million low income Americans. Now, the plaintiffs in these lawsuits argue that this violates the commitments that were made in those agreements, kills local jobs, and increase energy costs when families can afford it least. So, when affordable clean energy programs like this are cut, not only does it disrupt the system for clean energy, but families locally lose both savings and stability. So, we're going to be watching to see how state and local governments step up to this problem or fail to. And another really important news story that you might have missed is that the DOJ disbanded a major anti cartel task force recently. So, the Department of Justice, which is a federal program, has very quietly disbanded its organized crime drug enforcement task forces. So that was a key tool in fighting drug cartels. Critics say that it weakens America's ability to confront money laundering and trafficking. For families, this may mean more exposure to illicit drugs, less federal oversight, and our families being less safe at home. So let's keep an eye on how Congress responds through funding or new oversight structures. And that's going to wrap it up for Sunshine Strategies this week. Um, you've got some not great stories in a world that feels a little bit at war. But I want you guys to remember that we have to pay attention, we have to stay engaged, because every act of awareness, every time you have a Civic Sunday or go to a local meeting, it's a small, quiet rebellion against apathy. So until next time, friends, keep your heads up, your hearts open, and your lights on. Talk to you later.